Imagine pouring everything you have into someone you love. Your heart, your time, your savings, $47,000, to be exact, all for your sister's dream wedding. You stay up late, perfecting every detail, believing this will bring you closer, maybe even earn their respect. You're not just planning a wedding, you're building a bridge to family. Then, one text shatters it all. It's cold, clinical, like a knife. You stare at your phone, hands trembling, as the words sink in. Your family doesn't want you there. They've taken everything and left you with nothing but betrayal. I spent months crafting Sienna's perfect day. I secured a stunning waterfront venue, hired top photographers, designed florals that took my breath away, $47,000 of my own money, poured into her happiness. I built timelines, vendor lists, every detail flawless, hoping she'd see my love. But then, that text, "You're not invited. Sienna doesn't want you there." My family expected me to keep working, uninvited, like I was invisible. The sting wasn't just the money, it was a lifetime of giving, only to be discarded. That message wasn't just cruel, it was the end of my illusions. I'm Eloan Baxter, a 37-year-old wedding planner from Seattle, and this is my story of heartbreak and healing. My sister's wedding wasn't just a day, it was decades of sacrifice, of hoping my family would finally see my worth. But that text changed everything. It broke me, but it also built me back stronger. If you've ever given your all and been cast aside, this is for you. Stick around to hear how I turned betrayal into empowerment. Hit subscribe if you've felt taken for granted, and let's walk this journey together. You're not alone. Growing up in a quiet Seattle suburb, I learned early that my sister, Sienna, 5 years younger, was the shining star of our family. Our home, a modest split level with a cedar porch, was always alive with her light. At her 3rd birthday, my parents, Evelyn and Harold, transformed our backyard into a wonderland. A petting zoo with bleating goats, a clown juggling flaming torches, balloons bobbing in the breeze, it was a spectacle. Neighbors clapped, cameras flashed, and Sienna, in her tiny crown, soaked up every moment. 2 months later, my 9th birthday arrived. I'd hoped for something special, maybe a cake with my name in icing. Instead, Mom handed me a frozen pizza and a blockbuster VHS of some forgettable comedy. When I asked why my day felt so small, she sighed, "Sienna's little, sweetie. She needs more attention." That phrase became the anthem of my childhood, a quiet hum under every family moment. I'd watch Sienna twirl through the living room, her laughter pulling my parents' focus, while I sat in the corner, clutching a book, invisible. It wasn't just about parties. If Sienna spilled juice, it was cute, if I forgot a chore, I was careless. Their favoritism wasn't subtle. Evelyn would braid Sienna's hair while barely glancing at my report card, and Harold's rare smiles were reserved for her toddler antics. They'd deny it if I pointed it out, their voices sharp, "Don't be dramatic, Eloan." But the truth was carved in every uneven gesture. I learned to swallow my hurt, to smile through the ache of being second best. By age 10, I'd stopped expecting fairness. I'd watch Sienna's world glow while mine stayed dim, wondering what I lacked. That question lingered, a shadow over my heart, shaping every choice I made. By high school, the roles were set in stone. I was the responsible one, the one who had to be perfect. I joined every club, yearbook, debate, photography, chasing validation through achievements. I worked weekends at a coffee shop, saving every penny, while keeping straight A's. My parents barely noticed. A nod, maybe a "good job," but never the pride I craved. Sienna, meanwhile, coasted. Her C-average report cards were met with cheers, as if she'd conquered the world. "She's finding herself," Mom would say, framing her mediocrity as a journey. My perfect grades? Expected, unremarkable. When Sienna broke a neighbor's window with a stray soccer ball, I was the one scolded for not watching her closely enough. "You're older, Eloan. You should know better." The blame was always mine. I'd lie awake at night, replaying those words, wondering why my efforts were invisible. Sienna's mistakes were forgiven, her successes amplified, while I was held to an impossible standard. I started keeping a journal, scribbling my frustrations in the margins, every slight, every overlooked milestone. It was my secret rebellion, a place to admit I wasn't okay. Once, I tried talking to Dad about it, showing him my latest photography award. He glanced at it, then asked if Sienna had finished her homework. That moment burned. I wasn't just overlooked, I was erased. Yet, I kept pushing, driven by a stubborn need to prove my worth. I'd stay up late studying, my desk lamp casting long shadows, dreaming of a future where my work would speak louder than their indifference. Sienna sailed through high school, her charm carrying her where effort didn't. I envied her ease, but I never stopped working. That grind became my armor, protecting me from the pain of being less loved. At 17, I had a dream that felt within reach. I'd saved $2,000, every cent earned from late shift steaming lattes and babysitting neighborhood kids, for a photography summer camp at a prestigious arts program. It was my chance to learn from professionals, to turn my passion into a path. I'd lie in bed, flipping through brochures, imagining myself behind a lens, capturing moments that mattered. The camp was my ticket out of the shadows, a way to build a future where I defined my worth. But 2 weeks before enrollment, Sienna sprained her ankle in a soccer game. The medical bills piled up, insurance falling short. My parents sat me down, their faces heavy. "We hate to ask, Eloan," Mom said, "but Sienna needs this more than you need that photography thing." I wanted to scream, to tell them it wasn't just a thing, it was my dream. But their eyes, so fixed on Sienna's pain, left no room for mine. I handed over the money, $2,000 gone in a heartbeat. That night, I locked myself in my room, clutching my old Canon camera, its scratched lens a mirror of my battered hopes. Tears fell as I whispered to myself, "I'll make it anyway." Those words became my lifeline, a vow to myself. I started teaching myself photography, devouring library books on lighting and composition, practicing in our backyard at dawn. Every click of the shutter was defiance, a refusal to let their neglect define me. I'd stay up past midnight, editing photos on a clunky laptop, building a portfolio from nothing. My parents never asked about it, Sienna's recovery was their world. But in that quiet rebellion, I found strength. I wasn't just saving for a camp anymore, I was saving myself. That summer, while Sienna healed, I shot my first paid gig, a neighbor's engagement photos. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I promised myself I'd build a life where my worth didn't depend on their approval. That promise carried me through years of feeling unseen, fueling a fire they couldn't extinguish. I built Baxter events and photography from nothing, a testament to stubborn grit in a world that rarely saw me. While Sienna, my younger sister, breezed through a private university fully funded by our parents, Evelyn and Harold, I clawed my way through community college. I worked 3 jobs, barista by morning, retail clerk by afternoon, and babysitter by night, saving every dime to afford tuition. My nights were spent hunched over photography textbooks, learning aperture and shutter speed by lamplight, my old Canon camera my only companion. Every paycheck was a choice, textbooks or groceries, lens or rent. I chose the future. My parents never asked about my studies, their focus locked on Sienna's latest major switch, art history to communications, each shift celebrated as self-discovery. I'd lie awake, the ache of their indifference heavy, but I kept going. Photography wasn't just a hobby, it was my rebellion against being invisible. I shot my first wedding at 19, a small backyard affair for a friend's cousin. The couple's joy through my lens felt like a lifeline, proof I could create something beautiful, something mine. Every gig after that was a brick in my foundation. I'd drive across Seattle at dawn, capturing golden hour engagement shoots, editing until my eyes burned. Rejection stung, clients who doubted a young woman with a second-hand camera, but I learned to pitch myself with confidence, to sell my vision. By my late 20s, Baxter Events and Photography was born. I expanded into event planning when I saw couples struggling with vendors, my knack for details filling a gap. Couples started booking me a year out, my name whispered in Seattle's wedding circles. I'd built a reputation, not through family support, but through relentless work. Each contract signed, each glowing review, was a quiet victory, a whisper to myself, "You are enough." But deep down, I still craved my family's acknowledgement. I'd bring home awards, share stories of clients who cried at their photos, only to hear mom say, "That's nice, dear," before asking about Sienna's latest job hop. The contrast was stark. Sienna's fleeting marketing gigs were praised like Nobel wins, while my decade of hustle was a footnote. Yet, I kept building, driven by a need to prove my worth, to carve a space where I wasn't second best. That drive carried me through exhaustion, through nights when doubt crept in. Baxter Events wasn't just a business, it was my heart, my proof that I could rise above their neglect. Then came the night that changed everything, Sienna's engagement to Gideon Thompson. It was a Sunday family dinner at our parents' house, the air thick with the scent of roasted chicken and Evelyn's lavender candles. Sienna burst through the door, her energy electric, her left hand thrust forward to reveal a diamond ring that sparkled like a star. It must have cost Gideon 3 months' salary, a gleaming symbol of his investment banker status. Mom gasped, tears springing to her eyes, and Dad leapt up, pulling a vintage champagne from the cellar, a bottle he'd never opened for my milestones, like signing the lease on my studio. The room erupted in celebration, voices overlapping with congratulations, laughter, and clinking glasses. Sienna recounted Gideon's proposal, a private yacht on Puget Sound, a string quartet playing, a photographer capturing the moment he dropped to one knee. Her words painted a fairy tale, and for a moment, I was swept up in her joy. I hugged her tightly, the ring's glint catching the chandelier's light, and said, "I'm so happy for you, Sienna." I meant it, despite the familiar ache in my chest. No champagne had ever popped for me, no tears shed over my successes. I pushed the hurt down, telling myself this was her moment, not a competition. But the contrast stung. My achievements, like securing a high-profile client, were met with distracted nods, while Sienna's engagement was a family coronation. As we sat around the table, Sienna's laughter filled the room, Mom and Dad hanging on her every word. I watched, smiling, but inside, I felt like a guest at my own family's table. Dad toasted to Sienna's future, his pride unmistakable, while I wondered what it would take for them to see me the same way. I'd spent years building a business, pouring my soul into every frame, every floor plan, yet their eyes were always on her. That night, as I drove home under Seattle's rainy sky, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe Sienna's wedding could be our chance to connect, to rewrite our story as sisters. I let myself dream of a moment when my family would finally see my worth, not just my work. Mom broke the silence at dinner, her voice casual but pointed. "Eloan, you could photograph the wedding, couldn't you?" Sienna's eyes lit up, her excitement spilling over. "Oh my God, Elle, you have to plan it too. No one else could make it perfect." Her words hit me like a wave, warm but overwhelming. I knew the risks, mixing family and business was a minefield. I'd learned that lesson with clients who blurred lines, expecting discounts for friendship. But this was Sienna, my sister, and her pleading smile stirred that old hope, maybe this could bridge the gap between us. Against every professional instinct, I said yes. I agreed to photograph and plan her wedding at half my rate, a $20,000 discount that dipped into my savings. I told myself it was worth it, not just for her dream day, but for the chance to show my family what I could do. I envisioned a flawless event, every detail reflecting my skill, my love. Maybe, just maybe, they'd finally see me, not the responsible sister who always gave, but the woman who built a life from nothing. I dove in, heart first, believing this wedding could heal decades of being overlooked. I was wrong, but in that moment, I let hope lead, dreaming of a family that valued me as much as I valued them. I threw myself into Sienna's wedding with everything I had, as if it were my own. My heart, my savings, my sleepless nights, all poured into crafting a day that would live up to her dreams. I invested $47,000 of my own money, every cent a testament to my belief that this could bring us closer. The centerpiece was Crescent Harbor Estate, a breathtaking waterfront venue that cost $20,000 to secure. Its sprawling lawns and glittering views of Puget Sound promised magic, and I fought to book it after Sienna's original choice fell through. I hired a top-tier photography team for $8,000, knowing I'd be too busy coordinating to shoot myself. The catering, a gourmet spread to rival Seattle's finest restaurants, ran $7,000, each dish chosen to delight her guests. The florals, custom arrangements of peonies and roses, added $5,000, their soft petals a reflection of my care. I didn't stop at money. I created 55 digital files, a labyrinth of precision, timelines synced to the minute, vendor contracts triple-checked, seating charts that balanced family feuds and friendships. I built a wedding website, coded late at night, with RSVP forms and photo galleries. I negotiated with vendors, leveraging every industry contact to stretch her budget without cutting corners. When the original venue canceled due to new management, I worked 48 hours straight, calling in favors to secure Crescent Harbor, a $7 million property, at a discount. My days blurred into nights, my office lit by the glow of my laptop, coffee cups piling up. I'd fall asleep at my desk, dreaming of table layouts, only to wake and start again. Every detail was a brushstroke in a masterpiece I hoped would show my family my worth. I wasn't just planning a wedding, I was building a monument to my love for Sienna, to the sister I wanted us to be. I told myself it was worth it, the exhaustion, the drained savings, the stress. This was my chance to prove I was more than the responsible sister, the one who always gave. I imagined Sienna walking down the aisle, radiant, knowing I'd made it possible. I pictured my parents' pride, their eyes finally seeing me. That hope drove me, even as cracks began to show. I ignored the warning signs, the subtle shifts in Sienna's tone, because I believed in us. I believed this wedding could heal the wounds of our childhood, could make us whole. At first, planning Sienna's wedding felt like a gift, a chance to rebuild our sisterhood. We were a team, closer than we'd been in years. We toured venues together, driving through Seattle's misty suburbs, laughing at tacky ballrooms with dated chandeliers. When we found Crescent Harbor, Sienna gasped, her eyes wide with awe, and I felt a surge of pride. "You're a genius, Elle," she said, squeezing my hand. Those moments were gold. We'd spend evenings sipping wine at my apartment, flipping through bridal magazines, circling dresses, and debating veils. The day she found her gown, a beaded masterpiece that shimmered like moonlight, we stood in the boutique, tears streaming down her face. "You get me, Elle," she whispered, hugging me tightly, her perfume lingering on my sweater. I believed we were building something new, a bond that could outlast our childhood shadows. For 3 months, it was perfect. I'd text her color swatches at midnight, and she'd reply with heart emojis. We'd joke about Gideon's questionable dance moves, plotting a playlist to save the reception. I let myself dream of a future where we'd be close, where I wasn't just the giver but a sister she cherished. But slowly, the dynamic shifted. Sienna's texts grew shorter, her replies delayed. She'd cancel our planning meetups, citing Gideon's schedule or her friends' last-minute plans. When we did meet, her enthusiasm felt forced, her eyes darting to her phone. I'd show her my meticulously designed table layouts, and she'd nod absently, murmuring, "Looks fine." The warmth we'd shared began to cool, replaced by a distance I couldn't name. I told myself it was wedding stress, that she was overwhelmed. But deep down, I felt the old ache returning, the sense of being sidelined, of not being enough. I'd lie awake, replaying our conversations, searching for what I'd done wrong. I doubled my efforts, thinking more work, more perfection, could bring her back. I ignored the growing unease, the way her compliments felt rehearsed. I wanted so badly to believe in our bond that I overlooked the signs. Sienna was slipping away, and with her, the dream of a family that saw me. I kept planning, kept giving, because stopping would mean admitting the truth. Our sisterhood was fragile, and I was losing her to something, or someone, else. The shift became undeniable when Gideon's parents, Celeste and Reginald Thompson, entered the picture. They were old money, their world a far cry from our modest Seattle roots. At our first planning meeting, Celeste's smile was sharp, her words laced with condescension. "How quaint, a little photography business," she said, her eyes flicking over my portfolio like it was a child's sketchbook. Reginald barely spoke, his silence a judgment in itself. I brushed it off, focusing on the work, but their influence crept into Sienna. She started echoing their elitism, rejecting my table layouts as basic and uninspired. She demanded a $3,000 catering upgrade to Blackwood Catering, a name that screamed country club exclusivity, to impress their social circle. I agreed, dipping further into my savings, hoping to win back her approval. But the more I gave, the more she criticized. One night, I overheard her on the phone with Celeste, their laughter slicing through me. "Eloan's taste is so budget," Sienna said, her voice dripping with amusement. "Thank God you're here to fix it." The words landed like a knife, twisting in my chest. I stood frozen in my kitchen, clutching my phone, the sting of her betrayal sharper than any childhood slight. I kept working, telling myself it was a misunderstanding, but the wounds piled up. The final blow came at a bridal brunch I'd organized. Sienna had promised I'd be her maid of honor. "Who else would I choose?" she'd said, months ago. But that day, she raised a glass to Lila, her college roommate, naming her maid of honor instead. "Eloan's too busy planning," she said, dismissing my shock with a wave. My heart sank, the room blurring as her friends cheered. Later, I overheard her talking to them, her voice casual but cruel. "Eloan's such a control freak," she laughed. She'd have micromanaged the bachelorette party into a disaster. Each word was a betrayal, a confirmation of what I'd feared. I wasn't her sister anymore, just a tool to be used and discarded. I confronted her later, my voice shaking. "Why, Sienna? I'm doing all this for you." She rolled her eyes, accusing me of being oversensitive, of making it about money. Her deflection cut deeper than her words. I saw it then, the sister I'd loved was aligning with Celeste's world, a place where I didn't belong. I kept planning, driven by professional pride and a fading hope, but the trust was gone. Every email I sent, every vendor I called, felt like an act of self-betrayal. I was pouring my soul into a wedding that no longer felt like ours, for a sister who no longer saw me. 1 month before Sienna's wedding, my phone pinged, a sound I'd come to associate with vendor confirmations or Sienna's last-minute requests. I was in my office, surrounded by stacks of contracts, the glow of my laptop illuminating the 55 digital files I'd built for her perfect day. I glanced at the screen, expecting another catering tweak or seating chart question. Instead, it was a group text from Sienna, my parents, Evelyn and Harold, and Gideon's parents, Celeste and Reginald. The words hit like a punch to the gut: "You're not invited. Sienna doesn't want you there. Your presence would make things uncomfortable for the Thompsons." I froze, my breath catching, as if the air had turned to ice. Mom's message followed, her tone soft but cutting: "You can still finish the planning, dear. We know you'll do it well." Then Sienna's, clipped and cold: "We expect everything to be handled professionally." I read it again, then again, hoping the words would rearrange into something less cruel. They didn't. I'd poured $47,000 of my savings into this wedding, $20,000 for Crescent Harbor Estate, $8,000 for photographers, $7,000 for catering, $5,000 for florals. I'd given months of my life, my sleep, my heart, to make Sienna's dream real. And now, they were telling me I wasn't welcome at the event I'd built from nothing. They expected me to keep working, to coordinate vendors, to finalize timelines, as if I were just hired help, not a sister, not family. The audacity of it burned: Sienna's dismissal, my parents' complicity, the Thompsons' arrogance. It wasn't just a text, it was a declaration that I didn't matter. My hands shook as I set the phone down, the screen still glowing with their words. I'd been demoted from maid of honor, sidelined at the bridal shower, mocked behind my back, but this was different. This was a betrayal so raw it felt like losing something I'd never truly had, a family that valued me. The silence in my office was deafening, the weight of their words pressing down, threatening to crush me. The text felt like a blade, slicing through years of buried hurt. My hands trembled so violently I dropped my phone, its clatter echoing in the empty office. My chest tightened, like a vice squeezing my lungs, making every breath a struggle. I slumped into my chair, tears blurring my vision, as the reality sank in: my family had discarded me. I'd given everything, $47,000, countless hours, my very soul, to make Sienna's wedding perfect, believing it would finally earn their love. Instead, they'd cast me out. Memories flooded back, each one a fresh wound. I saw myself wiring $20,000 for Crescent Harbor, my savings dwindling with every click. I remembered the 48 hours I spent securing that venue after the first one cancelled, my voice hoarse from begging vendors for favors. I thought of the bridal shower I hosted, $4,000 spent on linens and lilies, only for Sienna to let Celeste take credit. Every late night, every spreadsheet, every sacrifice flashed before me, moments I'd poured into her happiness, thinking it would make us whole. I saw Sienna's face, laughing with Celeste, calling my work budget, her voice sharp with disdain. I heard her demoting me from maid of honor, her casual "you're too busy" like a slap. The text wasn't just a rejection of my presence, it was a rejection of my existence. My whole life, I'd been the giver, sacrificing my photography camp at 17, swallowing their favoritism, working to prove I was enough. Now, it was clear, no amount of giving would ever be enough. I sobbed, the sound raw and broken, my office walls closing in. The pain wasn't just the money or the work, it was the realization that I'd been chasing a mirage. My family didn't see me, not as a sister, not as a daughter, not as a person. I was disposable, a tool to be used and discarded. The weight of that truth crushed me, leaving me hollow, gasping for air in a world that felt suddenly foreign. I don't know how long I sat there, lost in grief, until my friend Nora's voice broke through. She'd seen my missed calls, sensed something was wrong, and rushed to my office. "Eloan, what happened?" she asked, her voice steady but urgent. I handed her my phone, too broken to speak. She read the texts, her eyes widening, then narrowing with anger. "This is abuse," she said, her words cutting through my fog. "They've been using you your whole life, Elle. This isn't love." She sat beside me, her hand warm on mine, grounding me as I sobbed. Nora didn't sugarcoat it, she listed every sacrifice I'd made, from childhood to now, painting a picture I'd been too scared to see. My parents' favoritism, Sienna's entitlement, the Thompsons' elitism, it wasn't just the wedding. It was a lifetime of exploitation, of me giving everything and receiving nothing but dismissal. For the first time, I saw it clearly. My family had built their world on my sacrifices, never once valuing the woman behind them. Nora's words were a mirror, reflecting a truth I'd dodged for years. I wasn't just hurt, I was done. Done begging for love, done proving my worth to people who didn't care. Her presence, her fierce belief in me, sparked something new, not anger, but clarity. I wasn't the problem. Their cruelty was. As I wiped my tears, a quiet resolve took root. I wouldn't let this break me. I'd given them everything, but I still had myself, and that was enough. With Nora's hands steadying mine, I found a strength I didn't know I had. That cruel group text, Sienna's dismissal, my parents' complicity, the Thompsons' arrogance, lit a fire in me, not of rage, but of resolve. I was done being their doormat. I picked up my phone, my hands no longer shaking, and typed a single reply, "Then pay for it yourselves." Each word felt like a weight lifting, a chain breaking. I backed up my 55 digital files, timelines, contracts, seating charts, for my records, then deleted them from my systems, erasing months of work I'd poured into Sienna's wedding. I called every vendor, my voice calm but firm, updating billing to Sienna's name and canceling my payment authorizations. The $47,000 I'd spent, $20,000 for Crescent Harbor, $8,000 for photographers, $7,000 for catering, was no longer my burden. I blocked Sienna, Evelyn, Harold, Celeste, and Reginald on every platform, severing decades of toxic ties with a few clicks. This wasn't revenge, it was reclamation. I wasn't punishing them, I was choosing myself, something I'd never done before. The backlash came fast. Sienna's voicemails were hysterical, accusing me of sabotage. Dad's messages dripped with cold fury, demanding I fix this. Celeste left a voicemail threatening legal action, her voice sharp with entitlement. I listened once, then deleted them all. Their words, once heavy enough to crush me, now felt hollow. I consulted an attorney friend, who confirmed I owed them nothing, my contributions were gifts, not obligations, documented and done. For the first time, I stood tall, unapologetic, my heart no longer tethered to their approval. I'd given them everything, my money, my time, my love, and they'd thrown it back in my face. But in that moment, I realized I still had myself, and that was more than enough. On the day of Sienna's wedding, I didn't sit at home, drowning in what could have been. Instead, I packed a bag, grabbed my camera, and drove to a cabin I'd rented on the Olympic Peninsula. The world outside my car window blurred into shades of green and gray, the misty forests a balm for my battered soul. I wasn't running away, I was running toward myself. As I hiked through towering cedars, the air sharp with pine, I felt the weight of betrayal begin to lift. I photographed landscapes, craggy cliffs, fog-draped valleys, waves crashing against rocky shores, instead of brides. Each click of my shutter was a step toward healing, a reminder of who I was before I'd let their expectations define me. The solitude wasn't lonely, it was freeing. I sat by a stream, its gentle rush drowning out the echo of that text, and let myself grieve, not just the wedding, but the family I'd never truly had. I cried for the girl who'd given up her photography camp, for the woman who'd poured $47,000 into a dream that wasn't hers. But those tears weren't bitter. They were release, washing away decades of trying to be enough for people who'd never see me. In that quiet wilderness, I felt a flicker of peace, a sense of being whole without their love. I wasn't free of pain, not yet, but I was free of their hold. For the first time, I saw a future where my worth didn't depend on their validation. I returned to my cabin at dusk, the sky bruised with purple, and wrote in my journal, "I am enough." Those words, simple but seismic, marked the beginning of my healing, a promise to never again let anyone make me feel small. Therapy became my compass, guiding me through the grief of losing the family I'd wished for. I learned to mourn their absence while embracing the life I could build. I rebuilt Baxter Events and Photography with ironclad boundaries, clear contracts, no discounts for family, no exceptions. My business thrived, my reputation stronger than ever. I launched a mentorship program for young photographers, sharing the lessons I'd earned through sweat and sacrifice. Teaching them to value their work mirrored my own journey to value myself. I surrounded myself with a chosen family, Nora, colleagues, clients, who saw me, not my utility. Their love, genuine and unforced, showed me what I'd been missing. I explored new photography techniques, my passion reignited, and found joy in capturing moments that mattered. My life became a testament to resilience, proof that betrayal didn't have to define me. I was no longer the sister who gave too much, I was alone, whole and unapologetic, living for myself. A year after Sienna's wedding, whispers reached me through my aunt. Sienna's marriage was unraveling, strained by the Thompsons' controlling grip. I felt a pang, not of vindication, but of sadness for the sister I'd once loved. My parents, Evelyn and Harold, reached out recently, their email tentative, asking for coffee. I agreed, but on my terms, a neutral cafe, clear boundaries, no promises. I don't need their approval anymore, my worth isn't chained to their love. This wasn't just about a wedding, though that text, "You're not invited," was a blade that cut deep. It was about unlearning a lifetime of believing I had to earn my place. I'd spent decades giving, $47,000, my dreams, my heart, hoping they'd see me. But love shouldn't demand sacrifice or silence. It shouldn't leave you feeling small. The greatest lesson was this: my value exists, unshaken, whether they acknowledge it or not. I grieved the family I wanted, the one where I wasn't second best, but in that grief, I found freedom. I learned boundaries aren't selfish, they're sacred. Saying no to their toxicity was saying yes to myself. This journey, raw and painful, taught me that I am enough, not because of what I do, but because of who I am. That truth, hard one, is my anchor now, guiding me toward a life where love doesn't come with a price. If you're watching this, maybe you know what it's like to give everything and still feel unseen. Maybe you've faced a betrayal that left you questioning your worth. Hear this: you are enough. You deserve love that lifts you, not love that demands your soul. You're not alone in this fight. I've walked through that fire, and I'm here, stronger, because I chose myself. I want to hear your story. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? Maybe it was a quiet stand, like refusing to apologize for your needs, or a bold one, like cutting ties. Share it in the comments below. Your words might be the spark someone needs to take their own step toward healing. Let's build a space where we lift each other up, where we remind each other that our worth isn't up for debate. If this story resonated, hit that like button, it helps others find this message. Subscribe for more stories of finding strength through pain, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's next. I'm Eloan, and this channel is about reclaiming our power, one truth at a time. Thank you for being here, for listening to my journey. Your presence means more than you know. Let's keep this conversation going, share your truth, and let's heal together. You've got this, and I've got your back.